Howdy, it's Bonnie. I have a quick ad for you. I've started podcast recording about 4 years ago. Always been on the hunt for a good platform to invite my guests and conduct the interviews. One that would allow me to have control over the audio quality and one that would assist me once issues arise. It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using a browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with a few guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality even if the connection is unstable. Go now to zencaster.com/pricing and use my code BonniesLegends, that's BONNIESLEGENDS, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experience I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. To a new episode of Bonnie's Legends. Welcome to a new episode of Opera You Music. Today's episode is featuring Ryder The Eagle, his new album Autotango, which I've been listening back and forth since its release in April. We met in March, which was almost to a year after I asked him for the very first time to come into my podcast. I've seen him live supporting Oracle Sisters. And usually I do my research, usually I'm prepared and I know his opening. I wasn't prepared for that show, and I was absolutely impressed by Ryder's show, and my friends know that. I was annoying them for the next couple of months. I was like, you need to see him live. You need to listen to his album. You need to check him out. I think I even made one friend watch a YouTube video of him performing. So, yeah, definitely see him live if you're listening to this. I was really glad when we finally met and we talked all about Autotango and his favorite songs of it, his songwriting style, the creative process in general we're discussing. And yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. By the time this episode is coming out, I've seen him again live in Paris. Check out his tour dates, and yeah, I don't want to say too much about the episode. Just listen to it, and yeah, I hope you have a very nice day. Enjoy listening to this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Ryder the Eagle with me.
Hello.
Yeah, that's an interesting name.
Is it? I guess it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to research if you've been interviewed before or like got asked the question before, like how you came up with the name. So I was wondering if you want to share it on the podcast.
Sure. Yeah, it was it just came pretty naturally. I don't even remember really browsing, brainstorming for names and stuff like that. It was just I knew I wanted something that was in three parts, with 3 words. I didn't know why it was some kind of balance or unbalanced thing, but I really wanted 3 elements in it. And then I wanted a name, like a name of someone. So that was Ryder. I just didn't want to use my real name. And Ryder was like related to, at the time I was really into motorcycles, and more than that, I've always been into like traveling and moving, and the idea of moving was really important to me, and I wanted a name that could like be linked to that. So Ryder came pretty naturally, even though I don't know where I heard that name first. I don't know, because I don't know anybody named Ryder, so I don't know. It was kind of like it just came like that, and then the eagle. I think it's related to my dad, or because my dad was a flight attendant for his whole life, and I don't know, when I was a kid, he was away most of the time, and I remember being kind of like admirative of him, being away and wearing this uniform and all that stuff. And at the same time, I was super scared that he wouldn't come back. I was scared that the plane would go down and stuff like that. So it was really I don't know, the whole thing was a like a mix of like admiration and, yeah, and a lot of fear too, and anxiety, and it just, I guess, the I don't know. It was just, it's, to be honest, I was just, okay, I'm Ryder the Eagle, and that was it. And I knew it was kind of a weird name, and it sounded like a name, like a metal band name. And I kind of liked that because I knew it was only going to be like love songs and like pretty soft stuff. And I kind of liked the idea of having a name that was like, that sounded a little, little metal with, just love songs. And I thought it was weird enough that it could be interesting, and I just went for it, just trusted my gut. And to this day I don't regret it like at all. I kind of like it, but at the same time I'm like, it's just a name, so I got used to it. But I do realize it's a bit weird
Mm,
when you think
yeah.
about it.
Oh no, I didn't find it weird really. It kind of, well, like the first time I saw you was at a concert because you opened up for the Oracle Sisters, and the name kind of fitted your performance. You were like kind of everywhere, like an eagle, like an eagle. You were like, one time you were at stage, then you were in the crowd, and then you were like on top of the bar and things like that. So it
Yeah.
was definitely a free spirited name, was kind of spot on to that first impression.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad it
Yeah,
it fits. Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. I just wanted to ask. That's nice. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Because Bonnie Orbison is not my real name either.
Oh, is it not?
So no,
Okay.
it's not.
What's your real name?
It was also Tabia Eberhard.
Okay. Okay,
It's
it's different.
it's German. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I can definitely relate to, like, I've grown into people calling me Bonnie all the time. And like, I call myself, like, I refer to myself as Bonnie now anyway, so it's, yeah. It's like only like when family comes together where I'm like, oh yeah, right, this is not actually like my birth name.
Yeah. I think it's cool to have a different name than your real name, like a pseudo,
Hmm.
especially when you're making art. Uh, it feels like I mean, for me at least, it feels like a creating a different space where you can be even yourself even more than with your real name. Because when you think
Yeah.
about it, like, your real name is not necessarily yourself, right? Because you haven't chosen it. So it's like people like sometimes are like, oh, why don't you just call yourself like your real name? And it's like, well, my real name is the name of my family. It's the name that my parents gave me. But maybe you're just something different, and choosing your name in the artistic realm just gives you the opportunity to like open up the doors and be like, okay, who am I? But like more important, so who do I want to be? And it's just I think it's the first stone to build this kind of house that's supposed to be like representing you, is supposed to be helping you expressing yourself throughout life. And it's a good starting point to just start with a name, as silly as it is. Just it's a good starting point, I think.
Yeah. It's a point of self-expression, definitely.
Yeah,
Do you wanna start with the bonus legends check?
sure.
Okay. So first question is, who is your legend?
I mean, could be my parents in a way, because the same way I was talking to you about, how I was feeling like towards my dad when I was a kid. I guess my mom was like, she's a writer, and she was singing too when I was a kid. So I guess I was looking up to my mom for the music side of things, and to my dad for the more adventurous side of things. And I guess they were both my legends in a way, um, at that time. And it just, and then when I grew up, I guess it just, like, the older I get, the less I tend to, in the sense of like legend and admire people. Or maybe I just cannot do it anymore because I don't have the same like spirit and the same way of seeing things, and everything is a little bit more real, and uh, there there's less mystery about things, I guess, the older you get. But there's still mystery, but there's some other kind of mystery that's not necessarily something you can dream about, and it's more something that you can be, fascinated by, or sometimes being like worried by or intrigued by. But there's less of a, yeah, I couldn't say I really like have a legend like to
Hmm.
this day. I'm like, yeah, I've never thought of it like that. Actually, it's a good question, but I guess I don't have any. I don't know if it's a very sad answer, but
Oh no, no, no. I try to remember if I had someone, but like parents are usually getting like named in this question, definitely.
right,
I
yeah, I
think they
bet,
they
yeah, because
yeah.
I feel like it's a child like feeling the legend thing. So yeah, I guess the parents are usually the first legends, because then I could tell you like something like, Leonard Cohen or something like that, but that wouldn't be true, because like as hard as I admire the guy and the artist and the songs, and he's kind of a music god to me in that sense. But a legend, I mean, I'm not sure, because also I watched like documentaries about him and stuff, and then you see how he treated like his girlfriends and stuff like that, and you're like, you just tend to have to separate the man from the artist, and so he cannot really be a legend to me, and like anymore, in the same extent as he could have been when you were a kid, and you idolize everything, and and it's like when you're a kid and your parents, you idolize them too, so they can be legends. But then you grow older, and there's no way you can idolize them anymore. I mean, if you want to grow up, you really have to see the things for what they are, and it's usually way not darker, but it's a little bit darker for sure than what you felt as a kid. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's hard to really like have this like very innocent way of seeing things, and yeah, and have like an actual legend in mind. It's kind of hard for me, at least. Yeah, it's hard for me.
Yeah. No, but I like your answer. It's mixing things up, you know. It makes it
Yeah.
interesting to listen to.
Okay.
All right, last question of the check. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oof. Tough one. 16-year-old self. um,
Did you already make music at 16?
oh yeah, 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 I started music when I was 9, and so when I was 16 I
Oh
already had a
wow.
band and all, and I was already, I think, almost making a living off of it. Not really, because I was still living with my parents and stuff, but we were already playing shows and getting paid for it and all that stuff. So,
Oh
um,
wow.
but I would definitely tell my 16-year-old self. that he doesn't have um, to straighten his hair, that he can just leave it curly and it's fine, you know. Because I used to hate my curly hair and fight it so hard,
Mm.
you know, every day straightening it, and it, I don't know. Yeah, I would just tell him that, and that would save a lot of time and effort.
Oh, yeah. It takes a lot of time to straighten hair.
I know
Yeah,
it does.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. I find it interesting how every like person with curly hair goes through that phase where they don't want to have the curls anymore.
yeah.
It's
You
like,
have curly hair too, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I kind of, I did have a phase where I straightened it and I had very long hair. So it was a lot of time I spent on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I
Um,
mean, everybody wants curly hair, but it's kind of a battle. And still to this day, like I'm 34 years old, and it's hard for me to accept it. Like every day, all the time, it's just it's a lot. And recently, I just shaved it all off, and I feel good about it because I don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's a real relief. And I know people, a lot of people are bummed that I did that because they liked my curly hair, but I don't know. Sometimes it's too much of like work, worry, all that stuff. It's wild, you know. It's you cannot really control it. Whatever you're gonna do, whatever product you're gonna use, you there's no way you can control it. So you have to let it go. But it can get really wild, and people don't realize that.
yeah, no, yeah.
You're liking yours. You're like you feel comfortable with yours.
Yeah, no, no, I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but I like blow drying it.
Yeah. Really? To make it like super fluffy.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I wish I liked this look on me, and that I could do that, because then it makes it's like embracing its wildness, you know, just like go all the
Yeah.
way blow drying it. But if I do that, I really look like a sheep, and I don't know why though. I think it's I don't know. I think there's curly hair that's good, and there's curly hair that's not as good. I don't think my hair is that crazy good. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. No, that's different. That's different the levels of like curly hair. I would definitely would say I would have like medium curly hair. Like it's a point where I could like probably when I take a lot of time to comb it, I would maybe straighten it a bit. But yeah.
Yeah.
Nice segue to talking about hair.
To try the beanie trick, like you wash your hair, you like let it sit damp, and then you put a
Yeah.
beanie on
Like
your
put a
head,
hat
and
on.
then yeah, you put a hat on like for
Oh yeah.
the whole night or something, and you wake up in the morning and it's all like tamed down, and it kind of feels better. It's like less freezy, less, I don't know. I know my brother does that, but I, I I I didn't do it that much. I should have, but it's just again, it's so much work. Like who wants to sleep with a
Yeah.
beanie on?
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, they used to back in the days, though. It was a thing. Like bonnet de nuit in French, it's a thing. It's like it's part of your pajamas, and it's just something you put on your head to not get cold. So it used to be a thing. I don't know why no one does it anymore. Maybe because we're not cold anymore as much as we were
Yeah.
before. I don't know.
Probably. We have electric heating now.
Yeah, yeah, that must be the reason
Yeah,
why.
absolutely. Um, yeah, okay. So we're here to talk about your new album, Autotango. Is that how you Yeah, I thought about it because like yeah, I definitely thought about the pronunciation of your album title. I don't know why, because
Yeah,
it seems like a easy title to say, but yeah, because it's like two words put together that are not usually seen together, so it makes it
yeah,
interesting. Yeah. Definitely. Um yeah, I was really excited about the announcement. Obviously, I've really loved your last album. Um
cool. Thank you.
and Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself a bit? It's like, what do you have released so far? Like for the listener, I obviously did my research, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I released how many stuff did I release? I released two EP. My first EP was called The Ride of Love. My second EP was called Freeborn. And then my first album was called Falling Moon. Second album Megachurch last year, and I'm gonna release my new album Autotango this year in April. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's two EPs, three albums. I'm trying. I used to not be that fast on releasing albums, and now like ever since Falling Moon, like I guess Falling Moon, my first album, took a while to release because it was ready to release, and then I had some, you know, uh, partners back then, work partners that were like, maybe we should
Mm.
wait, 6 months, it'll be better because blah blah blah. People will get back from holidays, and there's always something, when I was in a band
Mm.
before, and we had like a record label, we had a booking agent, and we had all these like proper, branches of the music industry working
Yeah.
with us, and it's a lot of like meetings about, when are we going to release this, so everything's ready, and you like try to find the best way and the best time to release something when there's actually not like the best time, and the best way is like now, and now that you still have the will to do it. But I was younger, and I tend to just like suck it up and be like, okay, cool, I guess that's the way people do things. And then we ended up like recording an album and then putting it out 2 hours, two not 2 hours later, but 2 years later. And it just
Oh
seriously
wow.
it fucked me up so bad, so bad. And I just thought it was the way it was, and it is the way it is. Like most people, and even if you're independent, like a lot of things around you will tell you that it's probably better to wait, because everything is scary when you release something. Like you feel like people are not gonna react to it. You feel like if you book a tour that people won't have time to buy tickets. But like if you think about it, like people don't need 6 months to buy tickets to a show. Like if they like the artist, like even if they find out like 2 weeks before that he's coming into town, then they're gonna go to the show. So this whole thing of like trying to build it up, I guess it works for like very important artists that are already settled and have a big like fan base, and they want to really work on the build up. But if you're just an indie artist and just releasing some albums that some people listen to, and you play some shows, and sometimes there's a lot of people, sometimes there's not a lot of people, and it's not a big deal, then I guess you just, I mean, that's my way of seeing things. But I it really fucked me up the way, everything was slowed down in the industry, and just to make sure that we would not make a mistake. And the fear of making a mistake really, fucked the momentum up. And then you just end up like touring and defending an album that's been recorded like 3 years ago. You don't even know what you're singing anymore. You have like 30 new songs that you want to record, and you don't have time to go in the studio. It's like it just doesn't make sense for me, and it didn't work for me at all. So ever since I went solo, I try to do things like way faster. But still, I was like, even if I didn't have a record label, I still had like some promo people that I was working with, like hiring, and they would tell me that it's like better to wait a little bit. And I wanted to listen to them because I didn't want to be that like stubborn guy, like, no, let's release it next week. But then it didn't change anything. Like, we didn't have more results just because we waited like 6 more months. So ever since that, after Folly Moon, I was like, okay, I'm gonna record one album a year, tour, like one tour a year, and just try and make it work, even if it's gonna be a lot of work. Like I just want to have this kind of like rhythm where I feel like I can write an album and sing it to people without it, you know, being super old or being outdated. Or I want my albums to really follow me through my life, uh, in almost synchronized with what I'm going through in my life. And it's kind of hard to do because there's always some kind of a delay. but I think it's doable, and I think I'm like for the past two albums, I'm making it work somehow. It's always gonna a lot. It's super stressful to do everything by yourself and to try to stick to that schedule, but it's working right now, and the pleasure I get out of it is really worth the effort I'm putting in to make it work like that.
That's nice. Yeah. No, I can definitely relate to that because I'm self-publishing my own novels, and
Oh, cool.
it already takes a long time to like write the actual novel and then have to edit
Yeah,
it, and then it's like a year has passed by, the book is now done, and then self-publishing seems to be, quicker and faster. And I think it definitely is from like big publishers, but no, definitely. It always like I'm always giving all my best and kind of sprint towards the release of it, and then the book is out, and 3 years have passed by, and I'm like, oh right, let's just talk about the book I wrote when I was 16.
yeah.
um,
Especially in your case, because you're super young, so I guess something that you write when you're 16, and if you're
mm,
19, then it's really not the same. Like you change a lot when you're young, so it's even harder to have this kind of delay between the things you create, because it can almost be embarrassing. I'm not saying that you're embarrassed of your own stuff, but it's like when you create something, like when you're super young, is of course there's like your views on the world are going to change, and it's everything is in movement, so it really it feels better if it's an instant, like a photography of a moment more than something that you but and also a novel is even gnarlier than an album, because like a novel takes a lot of time to write. Like I've never written a novel because of that, because I thought, oof, that sounds like a lot of work, and like I can write an
yeah.
album in 2 months, 3 months. I don't think I could write a novel in 3 months, and I don't even know if anybody could. It's a different kind of work, and yeah. So do you manage to release like a one novel a year?
mm, I tried to. Well, I released my debut novel when I was 15, and then
That's
I
crazy.
released the translation. Yeah, I know.
Congrats on that. It's impressive.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I definitely don't have any more the courage of, like, it's just the eagerness of a 15-year-old who just wants to put out a book. But
Mm.
yeah, so I've done that, and then I released the English translation a year later, but that was just the translation. And then but I remember the year, like I'm always writing a book during the time I'm self-publishing a book, always working on the next in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah. Yeah, I was curious about that as well because you're French, right?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, and you write in English, and I am German, and I write in English. So I was just curious, how did you end up writing in English? Did you make a conscious decision to only write songs in English, or?
No, I think it came super naturally when I was, because same as you, when I was younger, all my I mean, what I usually say is my like mother tongue is French, but my mother tongue when it comes to arts is English, because all the arts that I was consuming when I was a kid and a teenager, and then later on, it was only like it was a lot, not only, but it was a lot of American or English speaking stuff, whether it is like literature or movies or music, everything was like in English. And music, yeah, it was the first artist that I heard that really moved me. It was in English, so it really, uh, I don't know, it really does something to you in a weird way, because it's on an emotional level. So I think it really does something to you that's hard to explain. But then when you try to find that emotion back by making music, you're gonna naturally have English coming to you because it's what made you feel the emotion in the first place, you know. So it was really not natural for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna write a song and start writing something in French, because French was just my language of, you know, just talking to people at school and all that stuff. And then English was something where I could express myself and try to express emotions that were not expressible in French, almost, you know, because it's for me the whole like meta artistic realm was like music, notes, melodies, rhythms, and English. Like English was just the sounds of it was just a whole thing for me. So that's why I started singing in English, but it was not a conscious choice. It was not like, oh, I think French is lame, I'm gonna sing in English because then I will sound like my idols and stuff. It was not like conscious like that. It was more like sitting down to write something, and when you do that, you're in that space where it's super vulnerable and emotional, and there's no really space for choices like, am I going to write it in French, English? So it just came in English naturally, and then ever since I kept going in English. And then, because if you keep on writing in English, it will eventually, I guess, improve, and also you will find your footing in that language, in relation to your art, and then you just create your little bubble, your little world, and you don't want to get out of that after that, because it takes some time to find your footing in that. And once you found it, it's super precious to me. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe it would be cool for me to sing in French if I had started in French, before, and I would have like worked on it this whole time and created my own world in French. But I did it in English, and it is the way it is. There's some things you cannot really change. You could decide to change it, but I don't see why I would change it, because it always felt good. It never felt forced. And it's almost like less forced for me to write in English than to speak in English. Like if I have to speak to someone in English, I feel like it's not my mother tongue, of course, but when I write, it feels right, for some reason. And that's the first reason. And the second reason, which is not a reason because it was not conscious when I started writing, but what I quickly realized is that singing in English would help me being understood by a lot of people in the world. Whereas, French, you can only, like, if you perform in France or in Quebec or Belgium and Switzerland, and that's it really. And that really limits the potentiality of traveling and meeting people, and people to interact with your song and to understand what you're saying. I think it's super important. And turns out I was born in a world where English like is the main language. And I think it's a good thing, even though some people would say it's not. Like, it would be more authentic to sing in French because I'm French, blah blah blah. I don't have this chauvinistic thing where I'm like super proud of being French and I want to like spread the French culture all over the world. It's like, I think I'm spreading it even without wanting to spread it, because when you were born in a country, in a culture, you can like carry that with yourself. And when I even if I even if I wear a cowboy hat and play in Los Angeles and sing like English songs that sound like country or whatever, the American people that are there and see me and hear me perform, they tell me that they often tell me things like, "Oh, you're so French," even though nothing is French about my performance or my lyrics and stuff like that, but they still say you're so French because I think there's something. It's more like in the way you approach things and emotions is like very different if you're American, French, German. Like each culture has its own way to interact with emotions, and it's really not the same thing. The way an American person is going to talk about love and the way a French person is going to talk about love is like literally not opposite, but it's like super different. And it's all in the tiny nuances, so it's not that obvious in the first place, but it's, you can feel it. There's something there that's just different.
So I think you don't really have to, yeah, sing in your language to be like, I'm special, can you hear, it's a language that you don't understand and all that stuff. I don't think it comes down to that. I think it comes down to what you're trying to express in the first place. And it's like whether you're going to use a guitar or a bass or keyboard or violin to play your song, if the thing you have to express in the first place is real and special, it will like come off real and special to whoever is going to hear it, whether you use this instrument, whether you were wearing a suit or underwear or whatever. It's like it's the essence of it that's important, and then all the rest around it is just the way you're going to present it. And it's, yes, it's important in some ways, because some people only remember the way you present things more than the essence of it. But in the long run, what's going to come out of it is really the essence of it. So I don't think it matters that much. And it's yeah, it's about who feels comfortable with what. And I did uh sometimes I read a little bit in Spanish. I mean, I did one like in intro on Megachurch, I mean, on the video, and that was in Spanish, and I really enjoyed doing that. And in the new album, the song Autotango, there's a whole verse that's in Spanish. It's pretty simple, but it's I don't know, it's something that came naturally to me, also because maybe it's not my first language, so it's like English. It's still,
Yeah,
it's an escape
it's
from
so
my
good.
reality still. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would be down to sing in all languages but French. But I mean,
Yeah.
maybe one day, maybe one
Yeah.
day I'll get to it. It's just, to me, it just feels different. It just feels like not something that would be like, I really cherish the fact that I can express myself with things that are not like something I was born with. It's an escape for me. It's an escape
Yeah.
from my reality, and French would only brings me back to my reality, and I would not be able to express myself the same way, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for that answer. That was very poetic and deep. So back to the album Autotango. Um, I was wondering if you can you describe Autotango in 3 words?
In 3 words? Damn. If you would have said two, I would have said Autotango. But now I'm fucked.
Yeah, right.
Um, three words?
Ryder the Eagle.
Yeah, yeah. That would be the other easy answer. Wait, so 3 words to describe the album, right?
Yeah, before you go in depth what it is,
Okay,
inspired
so
and about and
3 words. I'd say. Okay, I'd say um tormented. um Personal. No, I'll replace personal by intimate, I guess. And the third, dramatic, I guess. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Um, no, no, no. I mean, I've already said my 3 words. I would replace one by I'm looking for the word right now. I can't. When something is yeah, ambivalent, I guess.
mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's a
It's
good
not.
word.
It's not strong enough, though. I would say when you have when you have
When you're torn.
personality personality disorder, and you feel like you're two persons at the same time. So if there was a word for that to describe something, so it would be ambivalent, I guess. But it's not strong enough, because we would need to add some mental health thing in there. But you see what I mean, something like that.
Yeah. 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 What kind of style is the album going to be like? Is it going to be a bit like is it going to be another Megachurch or yeah.
I'm bad to to describe like these kind of things, because sometimes you feel like your album is super different than the previous one, and then people listen to it and they're
Mm.
like, it's actually pretty much the same, and so I tend to try not to say it's super different, and then because when people are disappointed or something. But I'd say it's pretty different than Megachurch. I guess it's in the same. I mean, it was recorded on a 4-track cassette recorder like Megachurch, so the way of like making it. Also, Megachurch, I was like away in Greece for 3 months, and this one I was away in Portugal for 3 months. The how do you call it? The process of it was similar in a way, but then the vibe of it is pretty different, because Megachurch was pretty much an album about love and taking a step back and looking at love for what it really is, or and and trying to work on my way of loving, and trying to understand why I was doing things the way I was doing them, and why love was hurting me or fascinating me, or it was really centered about around love. Even if there was this analytic kind of thing where when like Folly Moon was more like in the deep of it, like going through a breakup or divorce and just saying what you feel and how you ride that wave. Megachurch was like more taking a step back and be like, okay, what is love? Like really, what does it mean to me, and how do I interact with it, and do I interact with it in a good way? And then this one, Autotango, is more about, it's like, let's try and put love aside and see why I'm, as a human being, putting myself in these kind of situations and feeling this kind of like, why am I hurting when I'm hurting, and what's the real thing that's happening here? Yeah, what's the real cause, when it's not like if the cause is not like a girl or a partner or love in general, like what could the cause be, so it's like diving deeper into yourself and trying to dig where you have to dig, really. And that's why it hurts. It's less comfortable than just blaming external things or people. It's like acknowledging that it all comes from within yourself, and you're doing that to yourself in eventually, so it's the album is about that, so that's why it's really like self-centered in a way, and very introspective, and kind of tormented in that sense, because it's, yeah, kind of fucked up in the things it expresses, because it's I don't know. It made me feel like I was really fucked up when I was writing it, even though it doesn't say, like, if you listen to it, you want to hear like crazy, like murder wishes or things like that. Like, no one's gonna be like, oh, that guy's actually a bad human being, or or he's crazy, or nothing like that. It sounds pretty tame, and it sounds pretty romantic still, because love is still around, even if
Yeah.
I'm trying to get away from it. It's like it comes back, it's like,
Yeah.
and
It's
yeah, and
it is
I
a
say
part
love
of
so many
life.
times. Yeah, exactly. Also, it is life. When you think about it, it's like it is life. So
Yeah.
I was just trying with this one to be like, what if it wasn't, and try to,
Mm.
but with knowing it fully is. But it was just interesting to, it was interesting to me to try, not to focus on love and try to put it out of the way, and seeing that even doing so, it always comes back rushing in. In almost every song, there's some occurrence of it, something that relates, that put in perspective the feeling I'm feeling, which is something super like self-centered and dark and tormented, but it puts it in perspective with the outside world, and through the medium of love, because that's how you kind of interact with people, and that's why you kind of create links with people. It all comes down to that. So your relation to the world is necessarily I mean, your relationship to yourself is necessarily based on love, because without the others, you cannot really have a perspective on yourself, because you're yourself. You cannot be too you cannot get out of your body and be like, who's that person? You are who you are, and the other people are the ones who give you a reflection of yourself, and they're the best mirrors in that sense. So, and you interact with them, and you, like, through some kind of love, some kind of, like, even if it's not necessarily romantic love, but there's always this idea of, like, love, affection, and validation, and all that stuff that comes into play. So that was interesting to see that, even if I was trying to be really, like, you know therapeutic about it, and, like, very serious about, like, okay, what's the deal with you, man? Like, you, Adrian, what's your fucking deal? And then that it always comes back, like, to love. Eventually, it was really interesting. So I'd say it's not an album about love at all, but, like, eventually it is. Like, if you really when you finish listening to the album, you're like, yeah, there was a bunch of love songs in there. It's like, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad. Maybe I'm just stuck in that, like, thing, and I won't ever be able to get out of it, which is fine. I don't mind. I was just trying to explore that and see what happened. And yeah, it is, though. It is way less centered around love than the previous ones, and there's some other, like, other aspects of it that I never explored before, that I explored in that one. So I feel like it's a step forward. Yeah. It's interesting how to see how love, the force of love, it's always winning in the end. It's always like, you can fight it, you will be able to fight it for a certain amount of time, but, like, you can only fight it for so long, and it always comes back crushing you. That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I can definitely, I feel like sometimes I'm stuck in a cycle of love, like writing about love all the time as well. And
Yeah.
I even started writing a science fiction for that reason. I was like, I'm not writing another love novel. And so I sat down and I started writing a science fiction novel. But now it's quite centered around like siblinghood. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here we go again. you know. Um
Yeah.
the connection between siblings, and yeah, so yeah. Well, I was just noting that the title seems like very romantic in a way, Autotango. um you know, you think about
That's true.
dancing
That's
and
true. It's
like,
true. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. Also, yeah, tango is like a dance where, there's, like, a lot of seduction going on. It's based on seduction, basically, and on this, like, power things that happen, like, in the dynamic of seduction. And I didn't even realize that I chose for that album that was supposed to be not related to love and super, like, serious and self-centered. I chose something that was, like, that in itself, like, carried the essence of love, like the idea of dancing and the relation to the other. So I guess it was yeah, I guess it was. I mean, it makes a lot of sense now that you say that the whole record is like that, and that it's yeah, it was like that. It was taking something that was love, that was, like, the idea of love in the first place, and trying to and deprive it from its duality, or redirect directing this duality towards myself, and just understand that duality within myself, to understand better than my relationship to others, I guess.
what's your favorite song of the album?
Mm, uh, it's I don't know. It's hard. It kind of changes every once in a while. I think there's one that I really like. That's called it's called "Love's Not My Jurisdiction." So there you go for the album
Yeah.
not about love. Uh, yeah, maybe that's why I love that one. Maybe because it's the one song that's about love, really, in the whole album. So
Mm.
I feel like it feels. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it is somehow. It's my safe place. It's the one that I enjoy listening to the most, because it's the I don't know. it's I always write these kind of songs that are, I guess, simple, and the simple songs, the simplest songs that I write are always my favorite, and the ones that I really like listening to. Maybe because the others, sometimes when I go too deep, it's kind of too difficult for me to listen to, because I feel too exposed, or it's like looking at yourself in the mirror when you have your, frizzy curly hair and stuff. It feels a little bit like that for the other songs. So I would say that one is my favorite, because it has this simple and kind of like um, uh, soothing vibe to it. But maybe my actual favorite might be the first one on the album, that's called "The Fireman Is Blue," um, which is pretty much a song about depression, I guess. But I'm not a depressed person, but I can go through very like melancholic phases, and I guess depressive states that I always like get out of, So I can never call myself depressed, because I don't feel like sick in that sense. But I go through phases where I'm like, oh, this was dark, like in the sense of sadness, not necessarily like not necessarily not wanting to do things or feeling depressed, not necessarily feeling worthless, but just feeling very sad, and you don't really know why. Feeling this like very overwhelming sadness that just makes you want to cry, and but you know it's gonna be all right, like in a few hours, but you just feel that going through you, like almost like it's not, like it doesn't belong to you, and you just go like, okay, I guess I'm feeling that now, and you just go through it. And I wrote that song while I was feeling that, and it's a song about it's about that feeling, but it's about that feeling in relation to the person you love, because when you love someone, if you have a lot of empathy and that person have a lot of empathy, you end up feeling what the other person feels. So if the other person feels blue like that, you're going to feel it even harder than what the person feels. And the song is about how things bleed into each other. It's about, yeah, how in love you can, the things you feel can like really circulate between the two persons, and then you can really like impacts the other person. The song is about like it's like me, I'm feeling blue, and I can see that it's like having an effect on you, and like you don't have anything to do with it. It's like how you tell someone that that person has nothing to do with it, that it's just about yourself, but that you can feel that it's bringing the other person down with you. And it's like we're in, whether we want it or not, we're in the same boat, when it comes to emotions. And if someone is going down, the other person is like going down a little bit with that person too. And so the song is pretty dark. So it's about that, about how things are tied up in that sense. So I guess it is a song about love even more than depression, but it's about these two things. And I don't know why I like that song, because I wrote it when I was feeling like that, and I wrote it super quickly, like in 10 minutes or something. And I really liked the lyrics, and it just felt like I was capturing a moment that would be scared I wouldn't be able to capture that moment. I was like, this is too short of a moment, this is too intense, too deep, too sad for it to be captured. And I ended up like just writing it super quickly. And there's something really simple about that song too that I really like. So yeah, I would say that one, or the love
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. It was a comfort song, man, in that moment.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It really
It was a hug.
to be honest, I was feeling super down, and I could feel like my girlfriend was like wanted to help me out, but she couldn't, because it was just like this like very powerful like wave that takes over you, and there's nothing to do about it. And I just really wanted to tell her that it was all right, I was going to feel better like the next day, and but I couldn't. It's kind of hard to find the words to be reassuring when yourself you can like going hard with it. And so just writing a song was my way to tell her that. So it was literally a love song, but just that had this So it's not a like classical love song. It's pretty like sad and melancholic, but it's still a love song, and I like that about it, that it's still a love song, but that has this very sad note to it.
Hmm. Yeah. That made me wonder, do you because I mean it kind of circles back to where we talked in the beginning how you put up music like way quicker than you used to. Do you share your music? Like do you share your ideas immediately if you have them, or do you just keep them for yourself and be like I will be listening to the song for like I don't know 15 times, and when I think it's ready I will show it to people, like share it with your girlfriend, as you said, like with that song.
uh I share it once it's fully written. Like I don't share it if it's for instance, if I have a, you know, if I have one verse and I don't have the chorus, I won't be like, "Hey, do you want to listen to my verse?" You know, because that stresses me out. It just it feels like showing it when it's not done yet is like acknowledging the fact that it's not done yet and that it's not good enough to be done, and it's I feel like I will never be able to like finish it. Or it also feels that whenever you try to write a chorus for it, you'll there's also the judgment of that person you played it to that comes into play, and you know, because that person knows the verse, and if like if they like the verse already and you don't want to disappoint them with the chorus, and you know, it just brings it then it feels like writing with a band almost, you know, the same kind of feeling, which I wasn't a fan of. I really want the song to be like super intimate in the first place, and before sharing it I really need to be like exactly the feeling I wanted to express. And but once I have it, once the song is like finished, even if the arrangements are not finished, even if it's not recorded yet, I can play it to someone. I don't have a problem with that, because I do think the essence of a song like lies in the lyrics, melody, and chords. Like that's it. And all the rest, like even if you change the tempo of it, even if you make it even if it was a sad song and you make it like a up tempo song, a punk song, or whatever, I feel like the essence of it is not doesn't lie in the arrangements and the way you sing it. It's just it's really the essence of it. You know, the words, the melody, and the chords, and that's it. And you have your song. That's my way of seeing it, and that's how I like to approach songwriting, at least.
Nice. Yeah.
Do you show your like your drafts
Hmm.
of your novels to other people?
um I definitely share my drafts with other people because I need a fresh pair of eyes on it, you know?
Yeah,
Especially because, like, after you finish the draft, like 6 months have gone by and you, I don't know, maybe don't want to, tap into that character anymore and be like, I'm fed up with you. I cannot handle you anymore.
yeah,
But mm, I guess from like, I think the parallel to words would be like a chapter of a book,
yeah,
and I definitely think no. Yeah, I think for the same reason, because then I couldn't be able to change things up. Um,
yeah,
I remember I did that. I do that when with the first chapter, but that's usually just to collect ideas on how to continue.
yeah,
um, like the first chapter when I introduce the character, and I have no idea where this is, or like, I have an idea where the story is going, but I don't, I'm curious, like, what people think the development of the character is going to go through. So,
right.
like, the novel I mentioned when I was 16, I wrote it, my parents got divorced, and so I wrote about a 41-year-old divorced man. And it was definitely new and foreign for me. First of all, because I was a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah,
But also, it was just really interesting. Like, I didn't expect him to be the main character, and then he kind of turned out to be. And then I was like, "Friends, you need to read over this and tell me and tell me what you think of the character." And everyone disliked him because he was, I don't know. Maybe it was because they were because he was like 40 or something. I don't know, but but they
you
didn't
think it
like
was
him.
because of
And
that?
then Yeah, you know, because like I was 16 and I showed it to other teenagers and they were like, "Oh, this is boring. Like, why don't you write something about like other teenagers, you know?" I
Yeah.
think that was definitely the
Yeah.
main reason for them to be like, I don't like him." Or, you know, he had different, you know, different perspectives on like, you know, the world and society and women. So, yeah, they didn't like him. And I really, for some reason, I really enjoyed him. Obviously, you know, because I came up with him. Like I invented him. And so my entire mission of the book was to make him likable. And so he has a really nice, interesting character development. And people tell me, like, when now that the book is out, people tell me, like, in the beginning, they're like, "Oh, Bonnie, why is he the main character? Like, I enjoy him like less than anyone else in this book." But then at the end, they're like, they started to like him, and I love to see that. You know, he's
Yeah.
like a yeah, it's like he's a child of mine, and people finally like him. So,
That's
yeah, so
interesting.
I do share. I share my first chapter usually to collect ideas and um or you know maybe you know because like the first chapter kind of told them something about the story, and then I know what to like, they tell me what they expect to happen, and so I just write the complete opposite of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um yeah, so that's novel writing, but I'm very sacred with my poems. I don't like sharing my poems at all.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's
Yeah.
more intimate for you, poems?
Yeah.
In Yeah.
Hmm. Definitely, because it's like about my feelings and myself. I mean, you know, the novels are like characters will reflect parts of me or like thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, but poems are really like this is me, you know. And I even tried to write a poem a couple of months ago. Like, you know, I'm submitting and posting my poetry still, although it feels very, you know, vulnerable. But I wrote one poem like a few months ago, and it was called "Daisy's Been a Good Cowgirl." And everyone reading it was like, "Yeah, this is such a like." They started giving me advice on like Daisy's problem, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, it didn't work."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like people found out that yeah, I'm the good cowgirl. Yeah, I know. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about that. Yeah.
Cool.
And I also remember that when we talk of like when we already talk about poetry, I remember the I don't know which song is it in What Is Love from you, but like this is one line you wrote and it's Love is Agony. And I've I
Oh
think
yeah.
I even written a poem where I put the line in and then, you know, deciphered it because it's been like I remember hearing it um, for the first time, and I was like, "Oh damn, this is going to be the line that I will think about for like months," you know. So I don't know. I can have a look in my archive and send you it over if I find it. But yeah,
Cool.
I really enjoyed that. I really that kind of started like a existential crisis, that line
Oh
for
really?
me.
Damn. I didn't want that
Yeah.
though.
No, it's a good one, you know.
A good one.
It was
Yeah.
a good like oh yeah, like it's a you know when you read a quote and you're like, damn, this is going to change. However, I'm going to I don't know process my feelings or something.
Oh
Yeah,
cool.
that's how I felt with love agony because I never heard someone calling love agony, you know. So I was like, oh, uh huh.
Yeah, it's a bit intense. I didn't remember that line, but now that you put it that way, it's like I'm like, did I say that? Okay, I guess I did. Well, I'm glad it could resonate in some ways.
Yeah, because like, right, the first reaction is like, "Oh, this is harsh," you know, like love is agony. But like when you think about it, and you know, like in my thought, I literally think I thought about it for like a week, and you know, it still kept going because like a few months later, it like turned up on my own poem, and I was like, "Oh right, this is still haunting me." Okay, cool. Um, yeah, there's a I think it's the intensity of of that line, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little intense. My bad. It's my main it's my main flaw or quality or whatever you want to call it. But it's like I know I get a little too intense. But I
No, I
guess
like that. I like
it, things around, even like yourself. I guess I tend to be a little too intense with myself as well. But I think it's a way to really push things, to really understand them, and to when you push things to its limits, you can really understand the limits of it, and you can put it back in perspective with what you really think of it. Because when you're too scared of going, too far, I feel like you're missing on all this range of emotions that lies between the reasonable and too much. So if you want to understand like this, like the small spectrum of like emotions, and I think a lot of our emotions that really hurt us and also really drive us, I think a lot of them lies in this small like spectrum of things where it's like a little bit after reasonable and a little bit before too much, and it's in that, like it's in the red.
that.
If you were to describe it as a music signal, it's like in the red, but it's not necessarily clipping all the way, it's not saturating all the way through, but it's just like slightly distorting. And I feel like if you want to understand that part of things, you really have to, I mean, at least for me, yeah, I really have to go all the way, I really have to go clip like in the red to understand what's happening in the orange section. So that's usually I say things a little more too intensely, I do things a little more too intensely on stage and all that stuff, but it's all for this purpose of understanding what lies like one tier below it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I noticed that about your songwriting, and I've actually remember that I showed like after the concert, I've showed my friend the album, and I don't remember which song I put on, but she definitely she's also a musician. She commented on it and she was like, oh wow, like that's really like the lyrics are really intense and like because the music kind of sounds like lighthearted in a way
Yeah.
because it's the organ and stuff from Megachurch, and so she was like, wow, the lyrics are like the contrast of the music, and yeah, um yeah, I just remember that. Yeah, I showed your album to a lot of people being like, this album is great, you should listen to it.
Oh, cool.
um yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on the end of our interview. Um, so I was just curious if you want to do any honorable mentions. Maybe, mention someone who has worked on the album, or have you worked on it yourself?
Uh, yes, I did it by myself, like Megachurch, like on the 4-track cassette recorder, um, and I did so. But the thing that's different from Megachurch is that I recorded the album, like uh, on the album I put some strings, like some, but that was played on the synth, so they were like very 80s kind of sounding strings. And then I thought, I have a friend in New York called Jesse Kotensky, a violin player, really good violin player that I used to tour with when I was touring with Adam Green. And I thought maybe I could ask him to play the exact parts that I wrote on the synth, on the with the strings, and just violin and using different octaves, and just to bring a more I don't know, orchestral feel to the album, because I just wanted it to sound different than Megachurch, and it already was sounding different, but I just wanted to push that to some kind of an extreme, even if it doesn't sound extreme in the end. But for me, it's like it's a 4-track cassette recorder that sounds pretty lo-fi, and with strings that sound real and kind of spacey. So I asked him to do that, and he did, and yeah, I love the results. So now it's like it's a mix of both. It's like both real strings and 80s strings on the album, and it just brings this very dramatic vibe to to its full extent. And that's what I wanted for this album, because there was something really like dramatic going on inside of me, and I wanted this drama to translate in the music. which is hard to do, I guess, when with just a 4-track cassette recorder and just a shitty synth. So this like orchestral side of thing really brought something to the album, and it's a good contrast with the lo-fi vibe of the album, and to have this like these big layers of strings, I think it brings something. Yeah, so shout out to Jesse for recording these like super quickly, and yeah, I was so stoked to receive the tracks. That sounds really good. And also I want to say thank you to my girlfriend Eloise, who, like, first of all, like, she did all the artwork on the album, and she's super talented. She's like photographer and painter, and she paints on her like photographs, and I'm super happy with the cover art, and all the vinyl record is going to be really nice. The whole artwork in it is going to be nice, and she did everything with me, and she also sang on a few songs on the album, on 2 songs. So that was really nice, when I was like hearing these female vocals, and she was next door, and I was like, would you mind singing on it? And she was like, yeah, sure. And she did it, and that's a really nice thing to have this this like different thing. She did it on Megachurch on 1 song, but she did it on 2 songs on that one, and I always really enjoy that. And also, last person that worked on the album is my friend Bella Litza. She lives in New York, and she's an amazing singer. She's like crazy good singer, like a lyric singer, like opera kind of style. She's really, really, really good. And she did just like a 1 vocal line at the end of the last song, which is a pretty like epic song. And she does this like crazy things, like super high up, like Ennio Morricone style, and it sounds really good. So thank you, Bella, for doing that as well. And yeah, it's mixed by Noah Georgeson, who worked with the Strokes, worked with Rodrigo Amarante, Little Joy, like all these guys. And he's from LA, and he's my favorite mixer. He's so sweet, and he's so talented, and super like I don't know, super nuanced in his way of like working, and he really did a great job on the album. Like he sent me the files super quickly, and it was already perfect when he sent me the files, which rarely happens. I always have something to say, and he really did an amazing job, and I was impressed by that. So yeah, these are all the people that worked on the album, and there's also the guy who mastered it, called Philippe Bova. He's Canadian, and that was my first time working with him, and he's great too. So yeah, that was it.
Nice. Roll the end credits there.
Yeah, sorry, it was just like the album credits on a podcast. Kind of boring, but yeah.
No, they need a place in the podcast episode as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Howdy, enjoyed listening to this episode. You know the gist, you know what to do. Make sure to subscribe and share this episode with all of your friends, and leave a review so more people can tune in to my conversations with my legends. This podcast episode is hosted, edited, and produced by Bonnie Orbison. Support her continuous work on her paid Substack, which is like an online diary, and she shares her poetry and lyrical essays on there, or get one of her books. Right now she has 2 fictional novels in German and English out, and now as well a poetry collection called Pretty Tennessee. This podcast is managed by the Queer Lounge, and the theme song is by Evie Solis. Video clips of this episode and anthems of the day on our Instagram at Bonnie's Legends, and we're also sharing from Monday to Friday daily the new music releases, so make sure to check that out. This episode is sponsored by Zencaster. Use my special link in the show notes to save 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. See you next time.